to our scheduled meeting of the Health, Education, and Neighborhood Council Committee. It is just a little after 2, and we are in City Hall, room 1010. We do have a quorum, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to remind those who want to speak to fill out speak on any of the agenda items or public comment to fill out a comment card and submit it up to the front here to the officer. And colleagues, do we have any multiple public item? Yes, up in the front. Oh, yeah. Oh, right. We are in an electronic system. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for that. Please fill out or punch in at the electronic kiosk to sign up for public comment. Very much appreciate that. And do we have multiple items? Okay, great. So we are going to, I believe Councilman Cedillo is pressed for time. So if there's no objections, Mr. Cedillo, I'd like to move to item number 2 first. Okay, great. Mr. CLA, would you please read the item into the record for item number 2?
Mr. Chairman, item number 2 is the report from the City Administrative Officer, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, relative to the election outreach funding.
Great. I'd like to call up the CAO, the City Clerk, and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment to the table, please. Hello, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Great. Gracie, do you want to walk us through the different forms of outreach the department plans on conducting ahead of the 2019 Neighborhood Council elections?
It would be my pleasure. Councilmember Gracie Liu, General Manager for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. This report that we have submitted is a follow-up to the verbal that we did several months back. And we have a variety of outreach strategies that we have outlined in our report. For those who may be following along, particularly on pages 4 through 6, the overall goal is to reach not only have a citywide campaign, but also to focus on 30 neighborhood councils that in the past have had low voter turnout or not even elections because they weren't able to get candidates. So we have done a variety of partnerships with nonprofits and worked with community organizations. And we have also upped our contact on the ground with Neighbor Council 101 presentations, outreach workshops, social media workshops, tailoring opportunities, print advertisements. We have also, for target neighbor councils, done street banners, bus benches, bus shelters. We're working on a PSA that will go citywide. And we have an extensive digital ads campaign in the works. The goal is to not only do this in English, but to have it translated in Spanish, Korean, and Chinese as well. And our outcome metrics that we hope to achieve with the amount of the $325,000 that we are requesting in this report is to citywide increase candidates by 10%, and then in the target areas to increase it by 50%, voters to increase by 10% citywide. At the targeted areas, have a 50% increase in voters. And the change in demographics on the boards is to have a 10% change on citywide for boards to be more representative of their neighborhoods. For the targeted neighbor councils, we were looking at 20% change of the boards to be more representative of their neighborhoods. I have my team here who will be happy to answer any specific questions you have on the campaigns. And with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Great. My colleagues might have some questions, but I wanted to know, and I know we've had some very robust elections as of late, and clearly, if you could keep that up, great. But has the department developed any campaign goals for outreach or any benchmarks of how many candidates you want to see running or actual election turnout?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we are looking at percentage increases of the 10% citywide versus the 50% for targeted neighborhood councils, those 30 targeted neighborhood councils. So for each of them, it's going to be a different number because we're going to look at each of the neighborhood councils based on their 2016 numbers.
Okay. So what's the target? How much increase again from 2016, from the 2016 numbers?
Sure. So we're looking at citywide for candidates and for voters, a 10% increase from.
10% increase, okay.
Yes, citywide, but the targeted ones we're really pushing hard, so we're aiming for like a 50% increase on those.
Great.
Yeah, so we're being very ambitious, and.
That's good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to see exactly how it happens, because I know, like I said, some of the recent elections, we had a tremendous turnout. This, whether it's done, CAO or city clerk could answer this. This is a bit of it on the side, but, and I don't want to spend too much time on this matter, but I understand that the contractor that we had that was going to manage the online election pilot program for 2019 has come back and stated that they're no longer able to do so. So can you tell us exactly what happened there? And do you have a recommendation for the reappropriating the $215,000 that was slated for the online pilot? And what outreach activities the funds should be directed to?
Holly Walcott, City Clerk. Basically, it takes a while to put a contract together, and also the vendor is going through a merger with a different company, and the decision actually was mine to pull the plug. I didn't feel like they would be ready, and I didn't want to go any further down the track unless I was 100% sure we could pull it off. And it just takes more lead time than we had. So there is $215,000, but what I do want to let everybody know, although it's in our financial status reports to the CAO, is that the city clerk is currently running at a deficit because of the county's underestimation of the November costs. So we're currently $1 million in the hole election-wise. And we also have costs coming up with the anticipated vacancy in Council District 12. So I would recommend that you wait until the mid-year FSR with the CAO on reappropriating those funds.
Okay, well, I see your concern on that, and I actually have a recommendation for that, colleagues, and this is for that money that was budgeted for neighborhood councils. So while I do understand there's been all sorts of special elections, and we might have another special election, but we're not there's no decision made on that yet. But and while I sympathize with the deficit that the city clerk's office generally has overall, I am a little reluctant, and clearly we could wait a little bit longer to see exactly what happens, but this money should stay with neighborhood councils election, or...
It's your call. It's policy decision. I just want to make sure all the information is in front of you.
Thank you, but I have a recommendation for that, asking for a report back on that. But one last question for Dunn. What are we doing different next year in comparison to the previous year to recruit more candidates? And I know you mentioned some of the stuff, but anything different than before?
I think overall our whole campaign is new. The whole big huge social media push, that's new. Targeting the 30 neighborhood councils, all of that's new. Working with organizations like Public Allies, and doing like practically door-to-door campaigning is all different that we haven't been able to do in the past because we were assisting in administering the elections in addition to outreach, and most of the time our resources were more pulled into the administration of the elections than it was actually doing outreach. And we were able to start earlier in March of this year as opposed to in the new fiscal year as we have in the past. So all of our materials are ready to go at the beginning of the fiscal year, and that gave a lot of time to do these partnerships that we've never been able to do in the past.
Okay. Mr. Cedillo, any questions?
I'm pleased that there's understanding for the need of translation, and the materials need to be multilingual. I see expenditures like $10,000 for television, and I just wonder what that does. Is that some coordination of free service announcements, or because it seems not to be, I don't think you can buy much for $10,000. it seems that some of that money might be better rolled into digital ads and new media rather than negligible investments in television, unless you add a couple zeros there, it just seems to be negligible.
Yeah, so it's specifically with the 10,000 that was set aside for creation of the PSA, and then we would try to access free
Got
time. Right.
That makes sense. Seems like a modest budget for the needs. Just modest. That's my only observation. The other observation is that to the extent there has been big turnouts, they seem to be issue-driven. And so there's somebody hears something and there's a big much ado, and so then people seem to organize and rally. And so the question is, how do you do that in a way without engendering the type of kind of issue-based mobilizations that are taking place? How do we mobilize the community without the type of issues that have arisen?
Yes, that's something that we struggle with, I think, elections in general. I think we are lucky in this time and the issues happening nationally. There are a lot of people who really want to get involved, and so we're going to try to capitalize on that and invite people to step into neighborhood councils as a way to get involved with the issues that are concerning their community without fighting over stuff that we've seen in the past, whether it's, subdivision or homelessness, but hopefully that we can get people to come together in a collaborative way as opposed to disruptive.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Yeah, Ali, you said the county underestimated what it was going to cost. How does that happen, and does that mean we have to give them more? And if you could just expand on that.
Okay, basically what happened is they certified a brand new vote by mail system, and they also for the first time paid for postage, return postage.
Okay.
So the turnout was much greater than they had
So
anticipated.
they followed our lead, though, with
Yes,
the
they
postage.
did. Yes, they did. But the turnout was greater, the printing costs were greater, and the mailing costs were greater. So they notified each of the cities that the actuals were going to come in a lot higher than the estimates. And so we're anticipating that to be about $1 million.
And so then once they calculate that, they'll issue a bill or.
They will bill us, yes.
Okay, you referenced based on the possibility of having a vacancy on one of the
In
council
District 12,
districts that will have to have another election. When's the best, what is the county planning, and how can we make sure that whatever we do coincides with what they're doing? And if we do that, do we save financially?
We only save financially if we are consolidating. There's no election actually in the area to consolidate, so we're anticipating any single district election to be about $2.1 million, and that would be no matter when it was held. Now, if it's consolidated onto a different ballot, now the county is doing elections in June and is it June and end of July, or June and beginning of August? But the issue is your council recess goes 1 week too long to call it for that date. So we're currently trying to work with the county to find a different day, but it will be a standalone election.
Okay, now we can, as a council, set the date if we have a letter from a member informing us that they plan on leaving, so we could actually do that before the end of the year. Correct?
If we receive the letter, yes.
And just for the record, we're having this conversation because it does relate to our neighborhood council election, and in case that we do consolidate. So I just want to say this aside is related to the agenda items at hand. So just for the record, City Attorney.
Well,
Clerk.
if we're talking about financially adversely affecting the department, then, I think that's fine for you to make the the announcement, but
And may I
That-
add one more thing back onto your question, Councilman Rue, is that we do owe you a report, and that's currently in the works regarding, our entire process.
Of online voting.
Yes, so.
yeah, I'm good.
Great. No, great. And we appreciate your expertise on this matter and making that call because there has been problems with online voting. It is, many members are pushing for it while other members are very concerned about it, and we want to make sure that it's done properly because we did have problems. Some councils, some neighborhood council elections had no problems, others did, and we want to make sure when we do roll it out fully that we have as least problems as possible.
And we should start planning if we're going to go that way as soon as, we can just, even on paper, start planning things out, but
Right.
we need to
Okay.
have more lead time.
Any other questions, Steve? Thank you, but I do have to take public comment before I give the instructions, so we could.
Let me add for the record,
Sorry, one more question.
back on the question of the outreach, that people should think, I'm glad that materials are being translated, but also think about the ethnic radio and ethnic newspapers. They're very, communities rely on them and depend on them and trust them, and so they're good sources to do outreach to the community.
Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, colleagues. And if I could take public comment, and I have Mr. Tom Williams and Chapo Guzman. If you guys could come on up. If you could state your name, and you guys have a minute each.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tom Williams, associated with the LA 32 Neighborhood Council, which needs a lot of help. Outreach is important, but you have over 90 neighborhood councils. Somebody somewhere must have done it right several times. So there's been a lot of elections. Do we have a report regarding what's the best practices practiced by the neighborhood councils who have been successful? And I've been to a lot of different neighborhood councils, and a lot of people know how to do it, a lot of people don't. So I'm quite concerned that we're going through all of this, and I haven't seen any report regarding how the existing neighborhood councils have performed in the past, and who's the best, and how do they do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Chapo Guzman? No, is that Chapo Guzman?
Move on.
Okay, thank you. So that satisfies public comment. So colleagues, if there's no further questions, I'd like to recommend that we, one, note and file Dunn's report. Two, we want to approve the CAO's report and recommendations. And three, we want to instruct Dunn, with the assistance of the CAO, to report back to this committee in 2 weeks with an expenditure plan, goals and objectives for the use of funding for election outreach, which could include online voting prep. That was allocated for the 2019 online voting program, which is $215,000, pursuant to Council File 15-1022-S3. I would, for all intents and purposes, try to keep that money with Dunn and seeing how we could robustly do more outreach or prepare for our online prep. But at the same time, we just don't want to blanket it, give to the department. We want to make sure that there is an actual plan, and we'd like to see that before we allocate anything. But you could also talk with the city clerk to see if there's any online prep, online voting prep that you might want to use it for as well. So seeing no objections? So ordered. Thank you. We'd like to move to item number 1. Mr. CLA, if you could read that in.
Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is a motion, Mr. Weezer, Mr. O'Farrell, relative to the actions necessary to address the public health issue caused by typhus in downtown Los Angeles.
Thank you, Mr. CLA. And is there any public comment for this item? Let me take public comment. I think there is. Is someone signed up? Yes. Estela Lopez. Estela?
Where's Stella? This is Central City.
Okay.
City
And
Council.
Chapo Guzman again, who is not here, right?
Under
Okay,
oath.
so we're going to close the public comment. Thank you for that. And I understand the Department of Sanitation is here. Thank you very much. Are there any other city departments here that want to come on up? What department? Street Services. Come on up. And to kick this off, this item is being heard in response to a motion that was introduced by Councilmember Huizar. The flea-borne typhus has been in previous years throughout the county and in unincorporated areas, but recently a large number of cases has been identified in downtown Los Angeles. So I know the county health department is here, but and I believe sanitation can answer this question. Can you talk about some of the health-related indicators of typhus and what is typhus and how does it spread? What are some of the signs of typhus, or and is typhus fatal?
I'll leave it to our scientist.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Councilman.
Good
So we give
afternoon.
a backdrop. Yeah.
My name is Dr. Masto Jerry, and I'm Assistant Director for LA Sanitation and the Environment. Typhus is a bacterial-borne disease, and the way it's transmitted is that if the flea is infected with this bacterium known as Rickettsia typhi, then when it bites a host, humans, for example, as soon as it bites, it defecates. And what happens is, fleas, it causes itching, so you itch, and then you get that feces from the infected flea into your wound, and then it gets transmitted through your body, through your blood. And so you can get high fever, headache, chills, body aches, pains, and occasionally you'll get rashes like on your body, your torso. If it's not treated by antibiotics, then what happens is that it could start to dilate your blood vessels. It could infect your liver and cause swelling. It could cause a swelling of the spleen, and it could do kidney damage. And in rare cases, it actually can cause death.
I'm sorry I asked that question.
Do you want me to leave?
Sorry I asked that question, but can you just talk about how to prevent yourself from being exposed to typhus?
Yeah, the best way is just not to get bitten by fleas, and you can protect yourself by if you're ever in an area that maybe is prevalent. That's prevalent with Rickettsia, this bacteria, and fleas. You can take your pant legs and stuff it into your socks so that you have no skin exposed, and then you can take those bug repellents that contain something called DEET, D-E-E-T. You can spray that on yourself. I would go at least a foot above the ground because fleas can jump that high. And as long as you get up to your knees or perhaps a little bit past your knees, you should be fine. It repels the
So
flea.
basically, if you get some sort of a bug bite, don't scratch it, wash it.
Well, yeah, that would help, and then wash it before you scratch it, I guess.
Yeah.
But the best thing to do is protect your pets, dogs and cats, from fleas, and then protect yourself if you're in that area.
Well, thank you. Sanitation, can you give us a brief assessment of what we're experiencing in downtown LA with this typhus?
Okay, Jose Garcia, Assistant Director for Solid Resource, the operations. So just a little background. In May 2012 was the original date of Operation Healthy Street, where LA County said that this particular area needed additional attention as far as cleanliness. And so in that area, we started a quarterly comprehensive cleanup where we would post and notify the residents of the community that we were coming and deep clean the area. And we did it street by street. We were doing it once quarterly, and every other week we were spot cleaning all the piles of trash. 2016 to present, as the need for that immediate area increased, we also increased our frequency as far as our presence. And so we put permanent postings up so we wouldn't have to go back and redo that. And so it's on a schedule. So Monday through Thursday, on a 2-week cycle, every street within the boundaries of the OHS area, which is roughly Wall to Gladys, 4th to 7th, with Crocker Town going to 3rd. That particular area is on a 2-week cycle. So every 2 weeks we address it. We hard closure, we disinfect the area, we wash it down, and we clean it, deep clean it. When the typhus zone was identified, it expanded the area by about 3 times, from Alameda to Spring 3rd to 7th. And so we, in sanitation, developed a process by which we can incorporate the halo, if you want to call it, from the existing OHS area, and incorporated that so that those streets are cleaned on a 4-week cycle, because it almost doubled the size of the original. Taking our crews that are in the OHS area, once they complete their A assignment, then they'll move into a B assignment, which would be one of these outlined areas. Today, actually Friday, we've already completed 1 complete cycle of cleaning every street at least once. Working closely with BSS and the exterminator contractor, they've addressed about roughly 427 burrows where these rats might habitate. And they've treated them, and even though it sounds like a small amount, they've come back and retreated them and re-inspected them just to make sure that the treatment for those identified burrows has taken effect. So they may have gone to those 400 locations multiple times, 3-4 times. In addition to that, we've been working closely with the BIDS, the immediate community, to identify pockets of concerns within the area, and we've been addressing those on a daily basis. Just to kind of give you an example, over the 4-day Thanksgiving holiday, we removed 10.8 tons of material, mostly food, a food source for the rats that might be infested with the flea. In any case, we've added additional receptacles so that folks can put the trash in an identified area. So to date, we're about to start the 2nd cycle of going around and completing the entire typhus area. Again, working with the BIDS in the area and the immediate community of concern, we've been meeting with them on a regular basis just to be transparent and be informative and let them know our situation and how we've been progressing along. So that's what we have.
Great. Your area that you're covering, does that include the El Pueblo Crisis and Bridge Project, Home Project, the new one? I think it's a little too north, right?
That's in court. That's built into the scheduling.
Great.
So Tuesday mornings, it's actually addressed on Tuesdays.
Great. We want to make sure that that's covered.
Yeah.
Great. So members, do you have any questions? No? No questions? Great. Thank you so very much for that report. Since there's no objections, I'd like to approve this motion and move it along to council. Okay. Thank you. So ordered.
Thank you.
Now, do we have any public comment? We do, right? We have Chapo Guzman, who is not here, and Mr. Tom Williams for public comment.
Good afternoon. Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Environment. But last night there was a very good presentation regarding gun safety. And Senator Portantino and Congressman Adam Schiff were there. And they gave very good conversations. The LA County was there and talked lengthily about what causes it. A child psychologist was also there. And one of the elements was that if you deal with training and with young people and encourage them and give them a positive role model, they tend to do better and less problems with violence of any kind. There was also a matter that they're going to set up some workshops throughout the city, within the county area, and have programs to identify people who might be on the verge of violence. So I would highly recommend that the health, education, and neighborhood councils use the neighborhood councils. Public safety committees are virtually in every one of them. So try to encourage neighborhood councils to do this and provide some funds.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you so very much for your comment. Now, Mr. Clerk, do you have any other business before us?
That is clear, sir.
Okay, great. So thank you. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, members. Thank you.